buy silver report and precious metals IRA guide at betternestegg.com. Don't leave your future to chance. Go to betternestegg.com.
The following show is paid for by the LaHood Norton Law Group. The views and opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily represent those of WOAI and iHeartMedia.
Welcome. This is Sidebar. Sidebar, a frank discussion on life, the law, and liberty. Sponsored by the LaHood Norton Law Group. And now, your objection sustained. Your hosts, Karen Klaus and former Bexar County District Attorney, Nico LaHood.
1200 WOAI. This is Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. Today and every Saturday starting at 9 to 10 is when we're on. You know, this week, as many things as usual happened, and I don't even know where to start anymore because, well, let me just start this week with President Trump introducing his plan for making showers great again. That was just really wonderful news. But, of course, the tariffs seem to just really be taking over. The trade war has escalated with China. They're raising duties on the U.S. again. And you might have also heard in the news about Islamic towns, of course, across America. But in Texas, Governor Abbott, I don't think he's going to have any part of that. And so hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about this. And then measles, even though last week we mentioned that it had just not been in the news anymore. Well, it was this week because I think it moved way back into the spotlight when... Did I really hear Bobby Kennedy Jr. say he thought measles vaccines were a good idea as he was visiting the families of people that had had the measles? Well, every week you can come here, and I promise you'll be entertained. You will be informed because we've got the former Bexar County DA, Nico LaHood, trial lawyer, managing partner of LaHood Norton Law Group, and Jorge Araujo, scholar, former chemist, pharmaceutical researcher, and director. And before we start the show, I just always have to remind people, please check out sidebartv.com because during the show, we're on live on a social media platform of your choice, whether it be X or Facebook Live. But we also have a place on sidebartv.com where you can actually contribute, and that really helps us keep the show going. So with this tariff situation, I would say, in my opinion, it's not a very sexy topic. And that's why I'm wondering, do Americans just not understand what is going on when it comes to reciprocal tariffs, and what tariffs are doing? Because people seem more concerned about losing their 401ks than they do about making things right again.
Yeah, it's a complex issue. You have to think about that. You know, the bond market affects tariffs. You have inflationary concerns. You have trade issues. You have manufacturing issues. You have American job issues. You have tariff wars and trade war issues and deficits and reciprocal tariffs and all this. There's a lot of moving parts to these things. And look, I mean, I'm not the expert in it, but I'm someone that can listen to experts and watch and then glean my own opinion, which I hope everybody's doing that themselves. But then on top of all of that, we are not a people that naturally involve ourselves in deferred gratification or delayed gratification.
You're
we
right.
want immediate gratification.
Right.
So
yes.
if we don't see we see our bank accounts go down, oh crap. We see our bank accounts go up. That's wonderful. We're not thinking down the road. And that's just human nature. It's not any one person. It's on both sides, by the way. So deferred, delayed gratification is something that we should be training our kids to do, by the way. And there's a study, a marshmallow study on that we can talk about later if you guys want to.
I do.
Years and decades ago. But we're not good at it. And I'm not saying I'm great at it either. I've learned. The Lord has matured me in that area from all this crap I've been through. But so all those things are playing into this. And then we have to think about the long-term effects of this. That we have been mistreated in these trade discrepancies for decades. And presidents have talked about it on both parties. Nobody's had the cuyans, as I say, the church bells to do anything about it. And so Trump, and this is the part, look, I mean, whether you like Trump or not, I mean, the guy's been talking about it since he's been on Donahue and Oprah from years and decades ago. Whether you like him or not, he's consistent. He campaigned on this. Specifically. But then people want to say, oh, crap, he really meant it? Well, yeah, he really meant it. I mean, so maybe we didn't understand it. Maybe it wasn't talked about enough about what's going to happen. I think there could have been better messaging that, hey, look, just like with the detox, just like with he used the example of a surgery. I don't know if that's a 1-for-1, but it's going to be difficult at first. I like using the example of a bully. If you want your kid to stop being bullied, there's going to be a hard moment as you stand up to the bully. You may get punched in the nose, but you better get ready to punch back. And then guess what? The rest of the school year, you're not going to have to worry with that bully anymore. But it's going to be a difficult time. So, I was just giving you kind of a Cliff Note version of all and that's not even all the issues, by the way, of all the different issues that are moving along and that people have to decide on. And then the last one is this, then I guess we can start chewing away at this. But there's some people that are criticizing Trump and saying that he's reacting to the bond market and to what was going on in the economy, in the Dow stock market. And then you have Besant, who is a loyalist. He just says, nope, this was Trump's plan all along. And then you have Trump admitted himself. He's like, well, people started getting a little yappy or yippy or whatever term he made up again.
Right.
I mean, whatever it was. It's like, okay, so you did pay attention to how people were reacting. And yes, you were like, oh, okay, hold on here. I mean, so I think this is kind of one of those situations where their messaging needs to get back on point. I mean, he's got a lot of surrogates out there. I love that he brings people in that can actually articulate his agenda in all the different cabinet. But it just seemed a little inconsistent.
I almost felt like there wasn't any messaging. Like, he so deeply understands tariffs that maybe he thinks that everybody understands it as deeply and as well as he does.
Well, John Bolton doesn't think he understands it, but who the hell is that guy to criticize anybody?
I think your first point was an amazing point, and I think it carries the day. He's been talking about it for how long? I mean, since he was out of the womb, practically. Yeah. I mean, has he ever? I don't remember him being in even a remotely political scene, Nico, where he didn't talk about it, because this has been an issue for that long. Look, I mean, perhaps the most successful, maybe since 1912, maybe the second most successful third-party candidate. Usually success and third-party candidates don't go together, but Ross Perot in 1992, and for those of you who are old enough to remember, I was just getting mildly aware of politics at that time in 1992, and I remember him in a debate with Bush the elder, George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton, saying, and you can look this up. It's fast. Salo, I wish I could have sent you the video because I think it's worth playing. But it was hilarious. I mean, he was a Texan, had a way with words. And he said, hey, do you hear that giant sucking sound? Because that giant sucking sound is the sound of millions of jobs and enterprises flying out of the United States as they go to Canada and Mexico. Wave them goodbye. And you fast forward, and that giant sucking sound was something that virtually every single major politician since H.W. Bush doubled down on and thought it was a good idea. Barack Obama in 2016 mocked Trump when Trump said he was going to bring jobs back. He mocked him and said, what are you going to do? You're going to wave a magic wand? What are you going to do? Just tell me what you're going to do. And he mocked him as if to say it's noble that you've gutted the America interior. You go through America, there's story after story after story. You see ghost town after ghost town. Manufacturing jobs gone. We've lost between 1999 and 2011, just according to MIT research, over 1 million jobs. That was as of 14 years ago. MIT research claimed that. And the magic number in terms of manufacturing establishments that have left is 70,500. The Census Bureau data said there was a loss of 70,500 manufacturing. Even as I say the number, I'm having a tough time wrapping my arms around it. Tens and tens of thousands of manufacturing establishments that have left. Okay? This has been devastating to the country. And Nico, I would submit, and I'll shut up, but I'd like you to weigh on this point. All of the complaining that we hear, all of it, it seems to me, focuses on the process. But nobody cares about the pain and suffering that has become Trump's North Star. Nobody cares about that.
What did I say last week? I'm still waiting for the answer. Why is it okay for Pelosi and the Democrats in 96 and the late 1990s and early 2000s to address this issue and say this is a real issue? It's a real issue. Okay, then what's your solution? I mean, I don't understand what your kid's getting punched in the face every day at school.
Yep.
What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to move him out of the classroom. I guess the bully's going to follow him. Now what are you going to do? Are you going to keep running from a problem? We can't run from this problem because the United States we're not moving him out of a classroom. So what's the answer? No one that bitches about this on the other side. And again, whether you like the way he implemented this or not, that's open for debate. I mean, I'll listen to experts and I'll say, okay, well, what are you saying? How did that play out in the market? How did that play out in job reports? How did that play out in inflationary markers? How did that play out? Okay, I'm an evidence guy. I'm going to look at evidence. So your idea is great, but not all ideas are the same. But every idea has a consequence.
Yes.
And so we have to just play this out. And then are we really? What are we thinking about? If everyone says, or they think they say all these BS. Sorry, all these fake politicians. We care about our future generation, all that other stuff. Okay, what are you doing for them? $36 trillion in debt. This country is done. I've heard experts, not Nico LaHood, experts say that if we would have kept on this trend, the United States would have collapsed. And China was working towards that. China's our enemy. We've been in a war with China, cyber war, for years,
Amen.
a trade war for years.
That's right.
I mean, thank God we're not shooting bullets. I don't want to, but guess what? They have a bigger Navy than us. They have a bigger army than us. Yeah, their economy and their society is collapsing, and people believe that China's in this collapse, this demographic collapse right now, because in 20 years they don't have enough people because they had that stupid ass rule of only one child. But whatever. But they need to survive on a huge population, giving them slave labor. How do you compete with slave labor? I mean, we got rid of slavery. They pay slave labor, and they're controlled completely by the Communist Party. They need people. So they have a lot of things going on. If I'm Trump, I mean, I'm thinking, if I was in that camp, I said, look, I don't know a lot about these things, but I know what it's like when your enemy is weak and you see an opening, and I sense blood, I can taste blood. Be a great white, and I'd go for the blood. That's me. Again, I'd want to get wisdom from other people first, but I think there's an argument there too. Where's that fine line, George? Does Trump take his foot off the neck? Does he step on the neck? It does. I mean,
That's what China's waiting for.
Well,
Most people, according to the polling, most people can recognize two truths that are simultaneously true. The first is that there is short-term pain indeed. Most people know this just from living life. I mean, if you're older than 5 minutes, right, you know short-term pain for long-term gain. Most people recognize that. And then we'll come back on the other side.
Please.
There's a thought I'd like to throw out, and I think we should flesh it out a little bit before we change topics.
Okay, thank you so much, Kathy, Alex, Deborah, Brooke, and everybody that's online. Stick with us because we're going to continue after the show, but we'll be right back with more on Sidebar.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
1200 WOAI, this is Sidebar. Remember, go to sidebartv.com, and that's where you can be a contributor. And we even got a message from one of our listeners, viewers, that, is it possible to become a corporate sponsor? Absolutely. If you need questions answered, that's what we're here for.
Just to see what it looks like if they want to sponsor the program. Also, we can have your graphics, your promos, your company on our live transmission on X, Facebook, and Instagram. They can our YouTube, Facebook, and X.
Yes.
Losing track.
Yeah, I know. They can take advantage of that. So if you have a company, you have a company, and you're like, man, I like what you guys are doing. We want to be part of that. Well, inbox us.
It would only cost you $10 million. No, seriously, we are interested in having corporate sponsors also. Okay, George, where were you as I interrupted you when the clock ran out?
No, I was submitting to you and Nico that I think that we ought to talk more about tariffs, not less, but talk about it differently. And I think we should hear it more from the administration. I think I've been very impressed by Scott Bessent.
Yeah,
I really have.
Yeah.
He's been steady, unmoved, and full of substance. That's really great. I think it's a great teaching moment for people who are listening to him.
He's an expert. He's a professor.
And he's not backing down. He is
And he's
behind
successful.
the president.
And he's made billions of dollars in his career.
Amen. That's absolutely right. So I think he's been a great authority to listen to here. And Bill Ackman, I think, has also been very good. He is a hedge fund manager. He's been up and down. And at first he voted. I think he voted for Trump in 2016. Then I think he voted for a Democrat in the Democratic primary. He's been all over the place. And then he was starting to turn on Trump. And in the last 2 days, he's come back to Trump. You guys ought to check out his post. I think I have one here. I'd like to read at the end of the show because I think it encapsulates well where people are finally coming to. Because I think, Nico, there's more discussion about what got us here. I mean, I was just chatting with Nico briefly on the break. There are all kinds of ghost towns across the country. They're really sort of horrible, dark, miserable monuments to the lost blue-collar labor that has been shipped overseas. I mean, places like Cabarrus, North Carolina, Weirton, West Virginia, a place that I personally know from Danville, Virginia, since I've come from the Northeast. And I was sharing with Nico, these were formerly steel, mill, and textile powerhouses. Yeah. These were capitals of the world. And so what happens when these jobs and manufacturing establishments left? What do you think's going to happen? You had an onslaught of crime. I mean, you had suicides. You have no tax revenue, so now you've got nothing to fund law enforcement. What do you think's going to happen? You got gang violence that follows in. You got drugs, and then you've got Chinese factories that are exacerbating the problem by producing more drugs and coming into despondent Americans. Now, I'm not saying we want to have personal responsibility. I'm not saying that. Of course we do. We have to make our choices. I understand that as a culture and as a people. I got it. What I'm saying is that China has been central to this problem. They have. Our politicians have gone right along and completely ignored that central to the ethos in China is global domination. When they were admitted into the World Trade Organization, Nico, in 2000, 2001, we didn't care about that. We blew that off. There was no conditionality for, and here we are. Bill Clinton embraced them as a most favored nation in terms of their trading status, completely ignoring their political objectives. And what I'm saying is Trump is responding to the pain and suffering that has resulted over the last 3 decades of blowing off the needs of everyday Americans. It is those people that continuously show up election after election after election. It's those people, and that number has grown dramatically. And I think, Nico, we ought to talk more about it from the perspective of their pain and suffering.
You also can't think, we just assume because we're all in the stock market, except for you. I know you're heavy into property,
except for
real estate.
I'm heavily into debt.
Well, it's China's fault. I mean, but what I'm saying is very few, when you look at the percentage of America, only the top 10% or whatever it is, I mean, it's a lower amount of people that are in the stock market. So to George's point, they're not some people are like, oh, I don't care about the stock market. I care about the food prices. I care about jobs. Right. I care about this. So everyone's got a competing interest. There's just a lot of moving parts when you're looking at all this. And look, the president and his team have to consider all of it. And not any one perspective is more important than the other one. We just have to think what's best for the country overall moving forward and for our children and our children's children. And look, the bottom line is, and I've never heard any, yappy person on the other side contest. This wasn't sustainable.
Correct.
It just wasn't. It wasn't an if, it was a when. And everyone's just chopping their bits because we still have those things called nuclear weapons, and we had a strong. We're living off that strong military we used to have, and it's being built up again. But you got Iran chopping at the bit. You got China. You got Russia. You have all these other countries just looking at us and waiting, and it's almost like that hyena where that lion is sick and old and waiting, but the lion's still a lion. But they're not the lion they used to be.
But now the lion is going up to
now the lion got a shot.
But now what? Now what, Nico? Because what are China's options at this point? Now we know that
China's you like Gordon Chang.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to him the other day, and he's saying that China kind of boxed themselves in. Mm-hmm. They boxed themselves in because their ethos of he's got to be a Billy badass.
Explain that, though.
Well,
well, this is central to Chinese. It's central to Chinese culture. I mean, Xi has to save face.
Yes.
He simply has to.
Even to his own people. I mean, the cabinet he has. Mm-hmm.
And so I think this is what concerns me is that a rational, sane person is going to realize that America is really the largest market in the world. There's no comparison. We are the largest economy. By the way, people need to understand our economy to the tune of $30 trillion a year. That is what 4 times bigger than China. It's not even close.
Yeah, they need us more.
And so there's a desperate need for the American market. And so people are wondering, what the hell is Trump talking about when he's saying he's negotiating? What he's doing, he's not just negotiating down to 0 tariffs, because really what he wants. Trump isn't interested in tariffs. He's interested also in free trade, but fair trade. He'd love to see a no tariff situation because he knows America's the greatest market anyway and people need us. So he's not too worried about that. So what's he negotiating? He's negotiating more than just tariff by tariff. He's negotiating a complete movement, a reestablishment of supply lines away from China. What he's doing right now is he's isolating China.
Yeah.
This is absolutely critical for us to understand. Really is. China basically will have nowhere to sell their crappy products, and I wish I could use another word. Nico touched on this last week, and I thought I wish you had continued a little bit on it because people need to understand how this works. We have made it very easy for China to come into the United States and do virtually anything that they want. It's easy for a Chinese company to set up shop in the United States, people.
Impossible the other way
Yeah, why do you think they've been able to buy farmland next to military installations for the last several years?
And all the GNCs on the military bases.
Nobody's minding the store here in the United States until Trump comes along. But if you tried to do this in China, good luck with that. An American company doesn't just face tariffs monetarily, they face non-tariff barriers, regulatory requirements that force the company not just to turn over intellectual property as a condition for doing business in China, but to actually turn over proprietary design information.
And it's all theft. And they steal it.
Yes.
And they make it cheaper.
So I want to continue on what you said because you were talking about, I mean, how do you compete with slavery? That's exactly right. They basically take the plans, they take the information, they pay their people exactly dirt to reverse engineer and create a cheap knockoff that they then send to Americans and other countries.
Because we are not making them anymore. We have to buy them, right?
And so they use the money that we give them. And they pay people nothing to subsidize.
It's a deal with the devil. Then they get on the boards, and then they're 51% owners. China, it's all money driven because people are just focused on money. And so these companies say, look, we can't, it's more expensive to make it here because of all the regulatory restrictions. Let's go to China. It's cheaper. Yeah, but then you've made a deal with the devil. Now you're in bed with the enemy, so to speak. And so then they get on your board. They get your IP, your intellectual property. They steal it. They, like George said,
100%.
re-engineer it. I mean, this has been going on forever.
100%.
And I mean, you hear Mark, what's his name? O'Leary? What's his name? The guy?
O'Leary.
What's his first name?
Is it Kevin?
Kevin, thank you, Mark.
Yes,
Kevin
that's
so
right.
Kevin
He's 100% correct.
I mean, he's like 400%.
400%, yeah.
Screw these SOBs. I mean, we need to put them back in their place now.
That's exactly
I've been dealing with these animals for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so look, China is not our friend, and all this placating and the LeBron James and all the NBA, they can't talk bad about China because it's all them. They control them.
And Nico, he makes a valid point about how it's been a totally unfair playing field because we've wanted to embrace China. We're going to democratize China like the morons we are, not recognizing that this is central to their ethos. They live to globally dominate. O'Leary gets that. He says we have softened requirements for them. I've had to meet compliance requirements to be able to compete, let's say, on the stock market. I have compliance requirements that I have to meet. He says my Chinese counterparts, not so. We've given them tons of global market share, and we've not required them in terms of nothing really relative to the compliance requirements that we have. But I wanted to just mention again before we part that Trump's right. Don't be a panicking. That's what he calls it. Why not? Because what he's doing is he is.
I love it.
And he's. I love what you said. He's truly boxing China in a corner because China desperately needs us. Remember, they need. We basically export about a fifth of what they import to us.
Yes. Yep.
We really do. And we've been paying tariffs all along. So it's not like we're not used to it. So what he's doing, and this is, I think, absolutely fantastic. And for those of you who are listening right now, yes, I subscribe to the New York Times. And I read the New York Times so you don't have to. So you're welcome.
Thank you.
I have not seen a single headline from the New York Times this week that didn't call Trump's 90-day pause. And by the way, if you look at Trump's post, he actually puts that in capital letters, a pause. But the New York Times calls it backing down. Every single headline,
of course.
That's spin. I think it's essential, it's critical that people recognize that what Trump is doing by virtue of now some 80 to 85 countries, the Treasury Department has reported such, what he is doing is he is completely isolating China. They will have no one to sell their products to, least of all us. because we can get whatever we want elsewhere. And here's the most important part. The people that were incentivized to build in China because their slave labor is made up of mostly children, yeah, that's right, will now no longer have that incentive. And it will make much more sense to set up shop here. And you brought this up last week to the tune of trillions of dollars of repatriation of American manufacturing. This is what Trump's after. A renaissance of American manufacturing.
The multifaceted. So first of all, these 80 to 85 countries, there's not a deal yet. Once one big partner comes with a deal, it's going to be a domino effect. That's it. That's number one. Then that big, beautiful bill that Trump's been talking about, when that passes with the permanent tax cuts.
Yeah.
So this is a So this
really is.
This is the training, the part
really
that
is.
sucks before. So you just look. I've doubted Trump before. I've been very critical at times. I've just learned to pause and wait. Let's just not get emotional.
I know.
I mean, you can get passionate, it's fine, but emotions. I mean, and people, because you're gonna have egg on your face. Let's just wait and see. Look, criticize the hell out of him if this long-term plan and midterm plan screws up. I mean, because it's all about the midterms, right? I mean, so hopefully this gets done, and let's see what happens. I mean, I think his plan seems to be working.
Who else is going to do it?
Well, I'm still waiting for my two questions to be answered. No one's answering them. Anybody online, Alamo Talk, or nobody can answer?
No, but basically everybody's saying what Ruthie just said, America needs to be self-sufficient again.
We have to.
And this is the only way that we're going to have it happen.
So your neighbor in your neighborhood hates you, can't stand you, and I deal with neighbors at each other's throat literally all the time. But you rely on your neighbor to bring your food to you. You rely on your neighbor to make sure that your water's not cut off. You rely on your neighbor to pay your electric bill. But your neighbor hates you. Why would you do that? I mean, so we've got to be able, because once your neighbor says, screw it, it's over, we're going to go to war with each other, they cut off your food, they cut off your water, and they cut off your electricity.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just giving you an analogy.
It's the same thing.
But it's similar. I mean, we got to be self-sustaining. And if COVID taught us anything, we talked about last week, the only thing it taught us is that we need to do better and we need to be self-sufficient, period, end of story.
The only thing that my question is, how was it so easy for China to do that? It's sort of embarrassing as a country. How did we let it happen? Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more on Sidebar.
San Antonio's news, weather, traffic, plus breaking news 24/7. This is News Radio 1200 WOAI from the GiveMeTheVin.com Sell Us Your Cars studio.
Good Saturday morning. I'm Eric Lycum. On News Radio 1200 WOAI, federal aviation officials are probing the cause of a deadly Florida plane crash yesterday in Boca Raton. Details coming up. First, traffic and weather together.
The WOAI Traffic Center.
Construction on the east side, eastbound I-10 at Loop 1604, moving over toward FN 1518. All the main lanes are blocked. Same thing if you're traveling on Loop 1604 northbound between Bandera and Hausman. All those main lanes are blocked. It's slow back to Braun. Southbound Loop 410 between Eisenhower and 35. You've got road construction, which is one lane getting by. If you see any traffic problems, call 210-785-2601. I'm Michael Scott, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
Looking for near record warmth in the upper 80s this afternoon. We've got a fire weather watch, an air quality alert, sunny skies, 69 at the WOAI 24-hour weather center. Our top story. Federal officials are looking through the wreckage to find what caused a Florida plane crash that killed 3 people. The small 6-seater Cessna was headed to Tallahassee yesterday when it crashed into a car on a highway in Boca Raton. All 3 people on the plane were killed, 1 person in the car injured. Fire rescue officials say the plane had mechanical issues when it crashed after only being in the air for 8 to 10 minutes. The capital murder trial of rapper Tamor McIntyre is now with the jury. McIntyre performs as Tay K-47, is accused of robbing and killing a photographer in 2017. If convicted, the death penalty will not be an option for punishment, as he was 17 at the time of Saldivar's murder.
McIntyre currently serving a 55-year prison sentence for a 2016 murder in Tarrant County. Passover begins tonight.
Jewish holidays begin at sundown, though at Passover, the Feast of the Unleavened Bread preparations begin far in advance with the proper removal of all leavened products from the home and a reconditioning of the kitchen and the dining room, and all day today a fast before sitting down for the Seder, the meal during which the exodus of the Israelites is recounted. Passover, or Pesach in Hebrew, lasts for 8 days in lands outside of Israel. Eben Brown, Fox News.
News on demand at WOAI.com. Our next update, top of the hour. Breaking information as it happens. I'm Eric Lycom on San Antonio's news, weather, and traffic station, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
This report is sponsored by Lear Capital. Our financial system is cracking under pressure. Your retirement is at risk. Take control now. Lear Capital is offering a free Sky High Silver Report and Precious Metals IRA Guide at BetterNestEgg.com. Don't leave your future to chance. Go to BetterNestEgg.com.
1200 WOAI, this is Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, go to sidebartv.com, become a contributor, and
you know what I like, Karen?
continue.
I like a lot of people that show that they enjoy the broadcast by tagging other people in the comments. And we thank you. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for liking it. But also thank you for tagging somebody in the thread and recommending it that way.
Letting somebody else know.
It helps us a lot. It helps us. So thank you.
It helps us as us?
Something like that.
That's okay, something like that.
So a lot of people were complaining, when Doge was finding all of this money that we could cut and, have it back and not have to waste all that money. But when you look at the tariffs, is this making us money? Is this putting money back into paying off our debts? And how?
The word pause, Nico, I think is helpful. It's a 90-day pause, he says. And so I'm going to be the reasonable guy. I'm not going to charge you the reciprocal tariff anymore if you're willing to play along. If you're a retaliatory nation, you're in trouble, i.e. China. But he says, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a break. I'm going to come down to 10%. It'll just be baseline for everyone, right? And now he raised the price. They're sweating bullets. And he says,
China?
He raised the price on everybody, right, up front. And then he deciphers between the retaliatory nations and those who aren't, a.k.a. China and everybody else. And then he says, okay, for all of you others who are willing to work out a deal, I'm going to forget your reciprocal tariff. I'm going to lower it to 10% base for everybody. What people don't realize is that even while he's negotiating, that 10% is at least 4 times more than we've ever received from them.
Right.
Got
and you guys should understand, this is money that's going to Treasury right now. This is the brilliance of the move. He's thinking that it was their idea. He's thinking he's doing them a favor. No, in the end, of course he is. Of course he's doing them a favor because, again, we're the largest market in the world.
He set a new normal with the higher tariffs.
Yes, sir.
So it's like, hey, the new price is going to be $50 when it was 10 before. And then he's like, well, we don't want to pay $50. Too bad, you're paying $50. Okay, I don't want what I need to do not to pay $50. Do A, B, and C. Okay, we'll do A, B, and C. All right, we'll bring it down to $15. But you retained 10 before. I mean, it's a good move. I mean, think about that. I mean, that's the way I perceived all that. I mean, so no matter what, it's a net game for us. But they were afraid of the new norm establishment. And so, and Trump knew what he was negotiating with. He read the room well so far, and he knew what he had to negotiate. I always say that there's 3 aspects to negotiations, whatever. You have to have superior knowledge, you have to have more options, and you have to have more patience. You have to have, and he knew that he felt like he had the knowledge, he had counsel, he had more options.
I'd like to build briefly before we transition on the patience comment, because in the first administration, you remember Trump wasn't as aggressive with tariffs. He was targeted to China. He had tariffs toward China, right? But if you remember in 2020, what came out of that? A negotiation with China. See, we forget this stuff because, I mean, 24-hour, 24/7 news cycle. It's like, I don't remember what I did 5 minutes ago. But in the first Trump administration, Trump worked out a negotiation with China in terms of how we were going to do business together as trading partners. And that agreement involved China buying a lot more from the United States. What happened after 2020? Never happened. China never followed through.
Well, they're not going to follow through.
And this is what they do. They lie, they cheat, and they steal. And yes, they kill. This is the greatest national force for evil on the face of the earth. And we need to do everything we possibly can to isolate them and neuter them. These are not, and I'm talking about the Chinese Communist Party. I'm not saying there aren't nice people in China. I'm saying as a national entity, these are dangerous, evil people who are hurting nations across the country. And if we had more time, we would delve into their predatory practices because they're leaving nations in deep, deep, deep trouble from which they'll never emerge, it seems to me. Trump gets this, and he doesn't want America to be part of that list.
Well, but before we get to the new topic, if you haven't seen it, I just got to say it. Salo sent us the video. We've been waiting for this report from Bill Maher.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
You got to see it.
Okay.
It was his monologue. He does it.
I saw the monologue.
Did you watch it?
I did.
Yeah, I watched it this morning.
You know, it was awesome, but I think his tone, it was weird. He said, hey, guys, I'm sorry I did this. Hey, guys, I'm sorry I had to do this. Hey, guys, don't hate me because I'm hating myself right now, too, but I did it.
He didn't say that, though, but you're just saying that was his tone?
Like,
now, I don't know. I took him as like, look, I was wrong. That we got a crazy person that plays president, but there's not a crazy person in the White House.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, and he goes, look, I'm just reporting what happened.
I have goosebumps. I cannot wait.
It was
Oh my
it was good. It was really good.
Yeah.
And he goes, and if you don't like it, F you. I mean, seriously, the people that don't want to sit down and talk, there's people on his side, there's people on my side, F you. You know, I mean, why shouldn't we talk?
My favorite line of the whole thing was when he said, look, I voted for Clinton and I voted for Obama. Every time. He goes, but I wouldn't dream of being able to say the things to them that I said to Trump.
Yeah, have a conversation.
Yeah.
Have a conversation, yeah.
Now, I mean, to me, that was a gut hit.
Because I can tell fake laughs, and he looks at the audience,
Yeah.
you know, and he goes, but he laughed at himself. He laughed at my jokes. I was still honest with him. He wanted to hear my opinions.
I like he said that, because he goes, and he asked me for my opinion.
Yeah.
And he goes,
Okay.
He listened. He listened.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
It was. You got to watch it. It's a 12-minute monologue. You got to see it. I mean, thanks for sending it, Salo. But I couldn't pass that up because
My curiosity is what's next. What he's going to be saying, because most of his time.
Well, he said he's not going to stop hitting Trump. And, and he goes, and who knows? Maybe he'll start another list, because he had that list of all the things that Trump has said. And he signed it.
And this is important. He didn't leave out the possibility of being able to call Trump and vice versa a friend.
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
Yes.
Okay, I need to.
At the very end.
What did he say?
That's what he says. And he was part of a larger point that he was making. But I listened for that. And he said that who knows? It was a kind of who knows what comes next. And I'm not going to stop. Like you said, I'm not going to stop going after him on things that we disagree with. And he rattled off a bunch of things he disagrees, of course. But he says he feels like there's at least an open door.
Because all of this is about money and eyes. I can only imagine the deal maker to be on his program next.
I was just gonna say that. Can you imagine Trump on his show? Forget about it, man. That'd be crazy.
Right. No, that's a great point.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
No,
back to the show. Back to the show.
In my mind, all I could think about is when the alternative at this day and point is Bernie and AOC. I just keep on thinking the alternative is a little bit stronger, because that's all.
Look,
that side
for all
has
the people
right now.
bitching about Trump, CNN had a poll out there, and there's like 46 or 47% of people believe that Trump has too much power. But then there was like 36% that said he has just enough power, where we like it, the power he has. And then there was another 17 or whatever percent that said, no, he doesn't have enough power. So when you net, they were talking about this on CNN. Yeah. When you net it, like 53% believe Trump has either enough power to do what he needs to do for this country or not enough. I mean, so when you really look at it that way, instead of saying 46% people believe that Trump, well, look at what does it say about the converse also, that there's more people supporting what he's doing and the power that he has.
Did you hear CNN, their biblical comment about Trump?
No, what they say?
In that assessment, they go, well, Trump is soaring like an eagle.
Oh, I heard that one. Yeah, it was the same guy, yeah.
No, it's Harry
They
Enton.
will run and they will not get tired.
He's absolutely right. Yeah,
And
he made
they're
that.
testing every single move that the opposition makes, and still he's going by the law. And that's what I think.
I have a good friend of mine that says I can't stand him because he doesn't honor the Constitution. And I ask him, and I'm waiting for this.
Following all the
What are you talking about? He's never defied a court order.
Right.
He's appealed when he needs to appeal. There may be an area. Do I have executive power to do this? I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to test. The only way to test it is to do something. And then he says, "Look, this may be overturned, but this is how we're going to test it." I mean, he's self-aware of that. There's structure and there's order. I really don't see it. I mean, if there was, like I said, I try to do my best to call balls and strikes. Understand that my ideology is biblical and it's leans conservative, which a lot of Democrats used to be conservative too. It just means trying to hold together. What are we holding together? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That's what I'm trying to hold together. And so I think there's a set of ideas that help us attain that. That's just my opinion. I think we have evidence to back that up. But I just haven't seen that part. I mean, you want to talk about his personality? Bill says that. He goes, I don't know with a nice switch or because he goes, I got home and then I watched 60 Minutes or whatever he watched, and he sees Trump saying, you're stupid and you're this. And I don't know if he does that anymore, so I don't know what he was referring to, because he seems a lot more tempered this time around. A lot more tempered.
He learned his lesson.
I think after
first
the
way around,
assassination attempt,
Yeah.
I really think it had a profound effect on him.
And you know what's interesting? When people think of him now, I think a lot of people think of him with his team. The last time he was president, you see, oh, Trump, it's just him. But now you think of Trump, you think of all his team, all his cabinet members, and you're like, oh, it's a whole. Yeah.
I mean, speaking of cabinet, I mean, I think Pete Hegseth's move to get down to the Panama Canal is huge.
Amazing.
Talk about the timing. You don't think that was a strategic decision from the president to the vice president to his cabinet saying, hey,
Amazing.
while this is going on, we're going to be multifaceted. Then Hegseth goes down to Panama Canal. We need to regain control of that Panama Canal. That connects the Atlantic and the Pacific. That is a huge port. If China continued to control it, which they didn't build it. American lives were given for the Panama Canal, and there was an agreement on how it should have been run. And so I love that we're getting that back. All China had to do was turn that thing off. We're screwed in a lot of ways. Not totally screwed, but I mean, it would make our life difficult. And then you put that in with everything else they're doing. So yeah, I'm so
Nico,
glad.
You don't watch Caroline Levitt? Do you watch her?
When it comes up on my feeds,
Her press.
she's very good.
They're amazing.
I think
she always has receipts, and I think
she's
we could've
very competent.
I thought we were not going to get better than the last one.
Yeah.
But I think this is amazing. She's amazing.
And
I think
only
she's very good.
26 years old.
Yeah.
I think she's very good. I think
She's a
she
new
can.
mom.
She comes prepared. She does her work.
Yeah, and the way she is, I think she's gracious, even with the people that don't like her.
See the
or vice
prayer
versa.
I sent you of her?
I did see that before she went. I love that. Look, that's my worldview. I love that she prays, and James 1:5 says, if any man lacks wisdom, ask, it'll be given to you abundantly. What's wisdom? The practical side of problem solving. So she's having to solve problems with the president's order under his agenda, with leadership that she's working with, and she's very good. She's very good with her words. She's a good debater.
You know what's interesting? Trump, they say that Trump was a podcast president, right? And what Caroline Levitt is doing now, every time they have a new session where she's press secretary, she always does this. Okay, now we got a new reporter here, and they have like 2 million followers, and it's different game.
Yeah, it's a different game for sure.
We got to take a break, and I don't know where we're going next, but that's reason for you to stick around. We'll be right back after this brief message.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
Okay, stop talking about whatever you're talking about. That's gross.
What?
This is Sidebar. Remember, right now, go to sidebartv.com. Get on social media because we're going to be continuing the show.
If you're a business also and you want to be part of sponsorship, you're like, you know what? I love what Sidebar is doing. Let us know, and you can become a sponsor not only during the live programming, but also online with your slide, your logo, and things like that.
You remember last year, I guess, when we started to watch everything that was going on in Europe and how, an entire country moved into Germany, an entire country moved into England, and they were trying somehow to figure out how they could get their country back, and I don't think there's an answer yet. And it made me laugh because I was thinking, remember they called Trump a racist when he called it the China flu? And now we in America are having to deal with communities just about everywhere that have Islamic law. Is it Sharia law? Is it there? It's almost as if the countries are moving into America just like they were in Europe. Just recently, Governor Abbott says not going to happen here in Texas. How is America going to deal with this problem? Because it is going to be a problem, just like it is everywhere else in the world.
Define Sharia.
Well, education and courage is how you deal with it. So Islam has 3 books. I studied it deeply because I had to, because when I was a district attorney, there was people talking about wanting to set up Sharia courts. It almost happened in Irving, Texas, back when I was in office. You can research it. I think city council barely stopped it by 1 vote, where they would establish a Sharia court that would circumvent really the Constitution. They have their own set of laws. So under Islam, and look, let me tell you this. First of all, you got to be able to talk about ideas without being called names. That's it. I don't really focus on Christians because a lot of Christians sucks. I talk about Christianity, the ideals. I don't talk about Muslims. We all have friends that are Muslim. I talk about Islam. What is Islam? Hinduism, Buddhism, not the Buddhist or the Hindu. I mean, what are the ideals of any worldview or ideology or religion? And so Islam has 3 books: the Quran, the Hadith, and the Sirah. The Quran is their book. It's about 14% roughly of the religion. The Hadith really makes up a lot of it. Those are the traditions of Muhammad and how every Muslim should be acting. And then the Sirah is his autobiography. Okay, so we know more about Muhammad, how he went to the bathroom, foreplay, how he had sex, I mean everything. And we know a lot about him because he had scribes that would write everything, and they wanted to know everything about him. We have 1 book in Christianity, the Bible, Old and New Testament. And so the Sharia comes from the Hadith. I mean, that's just the way it is. And that is a way that you establish order in a society. That is their legal system, so to speak. I mean, this is when women are treated a certain way, how you treat them, what happens when this happens, whether you can, act a certain way against a woman or against a homosexual or against a kafir, which a kafir is us. We're the non-believers are kafirs. I mean, whether you're an apostate in their own religion, what happens if you try to leave? What happens if you help someone try to leave? I mean, so it's all there. I mean, you can read it yourself. You can study it yourself. There's a great guy, Bill Warner, that George exposed me to years ago, that deep dive, he's considered literally an expert on it. David Wood is another good expert. Sam Shimon is another one. There's a lot of people that are more knowledgeable than I am. Nabil Qureshi, but he passed away. And so we just have to study the ideology of a worldview. And so you just look at UK, you look at Germany, you look at Canada, you look at Spain, you can look at all the different European countries, and what's happening over there. Something's happening. And so could it happen here? So I say it's already happening here. Look at Dearborn, Michigan. Look at some of these cities. They're calling them Epic City here, and I'm glad that the legislature is on it. I'm glad that people are aware of it. I'm glad that Governor Abbott is aware of it. But we cannot have anything that dictates our society other than the Constitution. We can have debates about religion, that's fine. But what controls this country is the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and our penal codes. That's it, our statutes. That's it, not Sharia, not any other Christian idea, nothing. Now, there might have been Christian influence in our laws, which we can defend that all day long. This was a Judeo-Christian nation in ideas that materialized itself into the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Okay, that we can debate that, and I think there's a lot of strong objective evidence that can support that. But that doesn't mean that this is a theocracy. It's still a constitutional republic. So we again, that's a different show. We can do a special show on that if everybody wants to. But I think people need to be aware, Karen.
But how do you get rid of an entire 1,000-home community?
I'm not trying. You don't get rid of it. You just make sure that they understand. You make them understand that the Constitution prevails, and educate people. You have to encourage people to speak out against things and not worried about putting an "ob." See, if you say anything about Islam, you're an Islamophobe. Well, no. Okay, what's a phobia? A phobia is an unreasonable fear of something. I'm not unreasonably afraid of anything. Now, if there's a spider behind Sal over there, a small spider way above on the roof, and I draw my weapon and start shooting at a stupid-ass spider, well, that's an unreasonable fear of a spider. I would be an arachnophobe. That's unreasonable. You're really weird on that, Nico. But if there's a tarantula on my shoulder and I freak out and I swap it and it scares me, what's on me? It's a tarantula. So it's not unreasonable fear. I've never heard anyone being called a Jesus phobe or a Christian phobe. Everybody, the phobe is only a one-way street, and I think that's a bunch of BS. We got to be able to talk facts, take any malice out of our conversation. Let's just be objective. Let's follow the evidence wherever it leads us, and wherever it is, and let's talk and see, is that does that support a constitutional republic? Does that support the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Does that support freedom? And if you look at any country that is that is a theocracy and is run by Sharia, is run by Islam completely. Look at Yemen. Look at Afghanistan. Look at these places.
Can you give us some examples of what would be taking place with Sharia law that is
Sharia says that a woman is chattel, is property, that she cannot testify on her own rape trial, that she needs the witness of at least 2 men to even make a claim, or is it 4, of rape. I mean, that you can hit your wife for insubordination. Look, it's in the books. I mean, it's not my, Nico, how could you say this? Well, I'm not saying it. I'm just repeating what I've read and studied. I'm not saying it. It's not my idea. I mean, and then what they do to homosexuals that's a different story. I mean, Christians may try to preach the gospel to them and hope they change their lifestyle. Under Sharia, you can throw them off a building. I mean, am I wrong, George? I mean, please correct me if I'm saying anything that's inaccurate.
No, the Sharia manual is in a book called The Reliance of the Traveler. And that's with 2 L's, Traveller. It's written by Nuhamim Keller, and it's fairly straightforward to get through. The verbiage comes from the Hadith, so it seems a little incoherent at times, but it's broken up alphabetically from A to Z. And for instance, some of the stuff that you're talking about in terms of Sharia policy towards women, it's largely in section O, so A, B, C, D, E. So work your way up to O. And you'll see that there's a description in there. But there's rules on marriage, on how the rights that women have, which are virtually no rights. There's rules on homosexuality, and that's a particularly dark chapter, by the way. And so it's categorized very cleanly. And it's a religious legal system, and it governs everything. It does. And I understand that there's some Muslims that don't adhere to it. I got it. Just like there's some Christians who don't really follow the Bible very closely, or alleged Christians. I would say that a Muslim that does not follow Sharia as prescribed, and yes, the Quran prescribes it in Surah chapter 9.
That's Surah means chapter.
It prescribes it, and it says if you are in fact a serious Muslim, that you don't just blow it off. That's in Surah chapter 33. So it's prescribed. It's not optional. And I understand that some deviate from it, just like alleged Christians deviate from the Bible. I get it. But if you're going to be a faithful Muslim, that is what you will do. You will follow Sharia. It is a all-encompassing religious legal system that governs the political, the social, and the moral duties of faithful Muslims. And Nico's right. It's very political in nature. And so Abbott came out, and it was a pretty clear statement. I have it here in front of me because I wanted to read it so people understand. He's responding to a planned community near Dallas called the EPIC. They call it the Epic City Project, and it's being funded and run by Muslim developers. And here's where Abbott came in, and he's the governor. He's privy to information that the average person isn't. And he was pretty clear. He said, to be clear, Sharia law is not allowed in Texas, nor are Sharia cities, nor are no-go zones, which this project seems to imply. Bottom line, the project as proposed in the video is not allowed in Texas. What's he talking about? You know, he just as it's described, he's talking about a community that is run by Muslim ethos based on Sharia law. And if you looked at those edicts, at those pronouncements, at those statutes, they are completely contradictory with the ethos, the governing spirit, and the content of the Constitution of the United States, and by extension, the Texas Constitution. And Abbott's saying that's not going to happen. And what are no-go zones, Nico? I mean, we have dozens of them throughout Europe, and that has not fared well for European nations. And I think they're on their way to becoming Islamic states.
I mean, look, people don't realize Turkey, Egypt, and Syria used to be Christian. And do your homework. I mean, for sure. But look, I mean, it doesn't just. I mean, I think what is it? Pakistan used to be Hindu, Afghanistan used to be Buddhist. If I'm not mistaken. I mean, someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. But so it doesn't just influence Christianity or take away from that. But it's all look. And here's my dilemma. I'm a freedom dude. So I don't like governments telling people that you can't be in a community. I think of the Amish. I think of the German settlements of New Braunfels. I think of, you know, in New York, all the different settlements in Little Italy and all that. So but they're not established in a different. Yeah, but they're not. Yeah. But they're still adhering to the Constitution. They're still saying, look, this is the law of the land. That's the issue, the difference between here. So it's not so much about the community, the coming together of different people. I'm Lebanese descent and Mexican descent, and so my grandfather is from Amshit, Lebanon, and up there, which used to be Christian, you're either Christian or you're Islamic, and we come from the Maronite Catholic tradition, and now I'm Christian. But so I'm not against the communities coming together. I'm against the ideas that you're establishing that community and these no-go zones and this and that. All you got to do is look at the experiment of Europe. That's it. Just watch the videos going on, see what's going on over there in Europe and the UK. See if the UK is not screwed. I think they're screwed. I think the UK has been lost. And is that what you want for your country? I mean, that's it. So, and then this is part of this is an imperial look.
There's no freedom of conscience.
Yeah, under Islam. The idea is to set up one caliphate under one caliph, one order under one leader, one ruler. Now they can debate on who the caliph's going to be, and then there's internal fighting as well. But that is uncontroverted.
It doesn't sound like they're ready to assimilate.
That's the issue. It's a lack of assimilation, and then expecting other people to assimilate to that ideology. And so that's all. And look, Bill Maher, once again, has been a champion on this. Him and Ben Affleck, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. And Sam Harris, by the way, who's an atheist. It was Bill and Sam against Ben, because Ben was making an emotional argument. Bill and Sam were making a logical, ideological argument. And that was it. It's been years now. And so Bill has been just very paid. Bill defends Christianity when it comes to Islam. And he's an atheist.
And just to be clear, this is not against individual Muslims.
No.
We're talking about ideology here. We're talking about as Bill Werner says, the words on a page.
That's right.
This is not about individual Muslims. Both Nico and I know beautiful people, wonderful human beings who are Muslims. Some of the best, yes, I will say it, some of the best people I know, yes, are Muslims, at least in the business community. And even personally.
Yep.
That's just the way it is. Yep. Not about individual Muslims.
Look, we'll talk about stuff like this. We can talk about Bobby Kennedy allegedly flip-flopping on the measles vaccine. We'll talk about that on the after show and whatever else you guys want to talk about. So put your comments on. Please join us on the after show on social media. Thank you for listening and watching. Please share these conversations with someone that you think may benefit from. Have a blessed weekend. Bye-bye.
The preceding show was paid for by the LaHood North.
Testing. Okay.
What?
Okay. No.
You're in your mouth.
Oh my God. Okay, so I mean, can you please answer the question that I just asked you? I mean, how can they let that community stay there?
Who's they?
The government, Texas,
where?
U.S.
Well, how does how does anything else happen?
Well,
People
what
don't act.
makes people think that if they get to stay there, that they may say that they're not going to have their own law, but they show no signs of becoming part of American culture. So that means that they're going to stick with what they have. And what are they going to lie about their laws and what they do to the women?
They actually can. There's a principle in Islam called taqiyya, where you can present falsehoods or lie actually. In order to further, there's a noble cause behind it. So you can further the Islamic movement. You can manipulate and deceive. It's called taqiyya. Look it up. I mean, so
it comes from the Quran and it's based on the character of Allah. Allah's allowed to do that. And so I think Surah chapter 3, verse 54, you're allowed to lie to further the agenda of Islam. That's perfectly okay. So you keep saying, why are they allowed to do that? I think that this is a shot across the bow from Abbott because he recognizes what's going on in other places in the country, and he's saying it's not going to happen here.
Good for Abbott, man.
Because he recognizes that a true fundamentally inclined, I'm talking about the fundamentals of your faith, if you implement that they can't help but to install Sharia. That's just organic. It'll fall out of it. And he's saying that's not going to happen because we know what that means. And so I don't know. See,
well, look what happened in UK. How many mosques are there now? You said it the other day. On
about 3,000 mosques. There was at least 130 Sharia courts and about 50 Sharia councils.
Is the same, right? Germany, their population is just.
But all of this in the name of inclusivity, and you're such a mean prick if you don't. Well, okay, I guess. Why aren't you inclusive of the guy trying to break into your house? I mean, at some point you got to just stop and say, wait, what are you trying to accomplish? Now, to George's point, I mean, we all know someone who adheres to Islamic ideology. I mean, I do, and I've worked with them, and look, I mean, I can't tell you what's truly on their heart, and there's studies on that, on whether they wouldn't. There's a certain the number of Islamic people that they don't want to do harm to their neighbor, but they would allow someone else to do harm to the neighbor because they understand what the Quran says and what you're supposed to be trying to accomplish under the hadiths. Look, there's been many debates, and I'm not saying I'm the one to do it, but I knew I had to delve into this when I was district attorney because there were people making this suggestion, and Irving, Texas was dealing with this at the time. Did you look it up after all or no?
No, I looked it up, but I remember reading about it.
But it's true. And so you just have to stand your ground and say nothing governs this country legally other than the Constitution, our statutes, which are based off the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and that's it. Now, whatever ideology you can say that comes from, of course, like I said on the show, George and I make the point, and a lot of other people can make the point, that our foundation in the United States and our Constitution, Bill of Rights, are biblically in nature of ideas. Look, there's ideas. That's it. Freedom, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. There's freedom.
And anytime somebody, and you see it in publications all the time, which is just deceiving. Well, I mean, there's other religious communities in the United States that are allowed to do that. I mean, so it's not fair. This must be clearly religiously, discriminatory against. That's not so. Central to the Christian ethos in Romans chapter 13 is adherence to the laws of the land. Yeah. Adherence to the governing authorities of the land. And not only that, but praying for them and having respect for them and recognizing their dignity. There's just no such analog inside Sharia. So Sharia dominates, and as Nico said, the point of it is to ultimately establish what is in fact a local, well, in this case, local, state, federal, and then global caliphate.
You should study it a little bit. You should study its origin.
The thing, I understand that, and I will, but the thing that just makes me question all of the progress that Trump is making with our debt, with our freedoms, with whatever. At the same time, these communities are popping up, and China has purchased all of this farmland that's near military bases. I mean, all of that stuff is going on. I
think all that should be eminent domain. I think they should pay them their money back, or pay them off. And I don't think any foreign entity or foreign non-American citizen should be able to own
I think
land.
that's where we're going.
I mean, we have to. Yeah. I mean, look, my wife's family, my suegros, my in-laws live in Mexico. Davi has dual citizenship. She's a Mexican citizen and an American citizen. She was born in California but grew up in Mexico. I can't go buy land in Mexico.
I know.
Davi can. Mm-hmm. I can't. Mm-hmm. I mean, okay, why here? Why can somebody outside that's not a citizen come buy up land? I mean, so theoretically, someone who's not a citizen here, if had endless amount of money, could buy up every piece of land, and then a non-citizen would own the United States. Theoretically, I'm not saying it would happen. I'm just saying.
Well, it's practically already there.
And that's the sanity that Trump is reestablishing, because he's saying, on my watch, the national suicide on the altar of codependency to supply lines built on cheap labor are over. We're not doing it anymore. That's it. Period. End of story. And look, I mean, again, Americans ultimately get this because Trump's popularity is holding still or increasing for a reason. People get it. And in the indicators, the actual on-the-ground indicators are looking really good, whether it's inflationary, jobs growth,
jobs growth.
wages, it's starting to pick up for a reason.
Eggs for Salo.
Huevos.
Huevos. Rancheros. Salo. Come on, Salo. Eat healthier.
Meanwhile,
Go ahead.
RFK.
Okay, this
this one grieves me.
very confusing to
Well,
me.
look, I want to know, what did he post or what did he say? I don't want to read what someone else said he said. So I'm going to defer to George
Please.
to give me exactly what he said, because Bobby's been very clear of his position on the measles vaccine. I read something, and this is why I tell people I believe none of what I read and only half of what I see. And I really try to hear that, because I do that for a living, until I get the full context of everything. And so Bobby has been a champion on educating people on the lack of studies, the risks of vaccines. And, he doesn't take a flu vaccine. His kids were vaccinated to a certain point, so I get it. And I've heard Bobby said, I'm not anti-vax. I'm anti-unsafe vax. Well, okay, what does that mean? But there's no safe vaccines, right? So,
Right.
I mean, but I get why he says it that way. I mean, truly safe, double-blind, placebo-studied, true safety vaccines. The same safety regimen that every other drug goes through. Vaccines don't go through. We went over that last week on the show. And so for Bobby, if he changed his position, it would be disappointing, to say the least. Not because he can't change his position, because I know the way he thinks, and Children's Health Defense and all those scholars. That's a badass organization. And so, are you looking up exactly what he said, George?
No, I just got kicked out of something, and I'm trying to put in
pay your
my
bills.
email,
Pay your bills, George.
Golly, man. I wanted to go. Look, it's not as easy. I don't think there's been a series of statements, and so the latest statement that I think has given us pause, because he said a couple of things during his confirmation hearings and in the short aftermath after his confirmation that made me wonder. But I thought, okay, I get it. I mean, this guy's not coming in on fire. He's coming in measured. He's just going to get a lay of the land here, because he said things like, "I support the measles, Senator. I support the measles vaccine. I support the polio vaccine."
Yeah,
I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
I mean, I support informed consent about the measles vaccine. I support the rights of, and he has said this, the rights of individuals to make their own medical decisions.
Yeah. So do
In
I.
other words, his tone is never coercive, and that is a huge departure, of course, from a CDC under Biden. So I thought, okay, maybe he's just being measured in his language, because he realizes undergirding all of this really is an individual's ability to make their own decisions. And the reality is that vaccines are part of the law. They're legal. And so he can't come in there and say effective immediately. He could, but that's not really a great idea to win hearts and minds. I get it. He took a measure, but it made me wonder. And so the latest statement, if this freaking thing allows me in here.
We're just saying, you have it memorized anyway.
Well, he basically said that the measles vaccine is perhaps the most effective.
That's the one that I heard that he said, but I didn't see him say it.
Right. It's perhaps the most effective means of stopping the spread of measles. And he said this recently in West Texas.
He said, so he said it?
Oh yeah. No, he absolutely did say it. Yeah. And it's in a post, brother. So that's very unfortunate, because it's just simply clinically untrue. It's just simply clinically untrue. And he has attacked the issue very, very well, because he's raised safety concerns about it. And he's done it in the context of the overall CDC childhood schedule.
Yeah.
And he's made it look, and this is Bobby Kennedy who really started talking about this years ago. There's not a single vaccine, but for one. And that one, the way it was done, it was kind of shaky. There's not a single vaccine, not one that I know of, that on the CDC childhood schedule that has actually gone through an actual placebo-controlled randomized trial. There's not a single one. That's a problem. Yeah. And so MMR is part of that. It's a trivalent vaccine, and there are serious concerns about it. It's a Merck vaccine. By the way, MMR and MMR2. MMR2 is the brand. MMR is just, measles, mumps, rubella. It's a trivalent vaccine. It's been around, I think, since 1971 in that formulation. And if you look at the trials of it, I didn't see a single trial that had an actual placebo. A placebo is an inert biological solution, typically a saline solution that reflects or mimics the saline concentration of the bloodstream. There's nothing reactive in it. I mean, unless you've got, rarely, a serious high salt or low salt problem in your blood. But it is truly inert. It's not reactive. When you look at placebos for vaccines, for any kind of vaccine clinical trial, you are not going to see a truly inert placebo. You either see an older version of a vaccine,
That's not right.
or you see the cocktail, the vaccine cocktail without the antigen, without the virus.
How does that change the test?
Well, the reason it changes it is because when you have a clear background, anything that shows up in the control group,
You can tell what's causing it.
Right.
Okay, so it's like the elimination diet. You start
Exactly.
taking everything out, you see what's gets you better.
Yeah,
Now that makes
because
more
if they're
sense.
saying
Okay.
there's a bunch of safety signals in the control group and we have the same thing in your placebo, and I'm thinking your placebo is worth exactly shit. You need time to get a new placebo.
Yeah.
You're not going to see that with an
Got
inert
it.
saline
It
solution.
hides the
Exactly.
effects.
So it masks it.
Got
So
it.
when they bring
Got it.
another older version of a vaccine, and what they say is, well, we'll just use another vaccine because it's already being used. And so that vaccine's already accepted. So it would be unethical not to give the placebo group another vaccine. You see how this plays out?
Yeah, yeah.
It's insane. And it's just a completely unscientific process. And what he's been saying for years, and saying it very ably and very accurately, is we've got underlying safety issues, safety signals all over the place that are not being addressed. That is a very different Bobby Kennedy than the Bobby Kennedy that would say that the measles vaccine is the most effective way to stop the spread of measles. That's just there's just no way to
What do you think
reconcile those
happened?
two
Because
things.
Salo's idol, Candace Owens,
Amen.
says that he's compromised. I don't
Okay,
know, man.
so
I hate that shit.
So the Fuller statement,
Tell me
the
the
Fuller
thing.
statement, he's advocating non-traditional treatments as well. That's never happened in an HHS secretary, or at least not to my knowledge. Now, in a sense, he's done the damage because he said he basically said that or isolated the measles vaccine as the most effective way to stop their spread. But then he said, oh yeah, there's other treatments. And as always, it's informed consent. You can do whatever you want to do. It's your decision. But the problem is that, he elevated the measles vaccines to a level that it shouldn't have been level. And he knows it. He knows it's not true. He knows it's not true.
That's a shame.
So that's the problem here. And I'm very frustrated. Now, would I go so far as to say he's compromised? I don't.
But Candace said he's compromised, so Salo says
Amen.
it's true.
It's the gospel truth.
Yeah,
I'm joking. No, well, Nico, I will always get concerned when politicians run and they get people that donate to them.
Yeah.
They're always donating, right? And then they win, they owe something. Or like, oh man, I have these people that have donated to my campaign and they're connected to this person and then they're connected to this person. There's a favor somewhere, maybe.
Yeah, but then not something like that. I mean,
You don't know?
so
You
when
don't think
someone-
so?
No, well, I
You
read
don't think he's got a major donor somewhere?
I had major donors all over the news, and I said, look, you are donating to what you think I'm going to accomplish in the office. You're not donating to me, so I don't owe anything
Was
back
exactly,
to you.
I think, then.
I don't owe anything back to you. You're supporting what I'm going to do. You're not supporting me. I don't benefit from this. I ain't going to Bora Bora with your money. I'm not pocketing this money. I'm not paying for my kid's child. I am using that money so I can accomplish the ideas that you think are good and that I want to implement into this community. So because you're not donating to me, you're donating to what I'm trying to do. I don't owe you anything back. I said that with people. You understand that. Now you'll get a hearing. You have access to me, so of course I'll talk with you. But I don't owe you anything, and that's how I did. And there's no way. And that's how I played it out. And I don't give a shit who likes it or not. So because that's where you get into to problems. Now I don't know. Look, Candace is a mixed bag. You know how we talk about that offline all the time. She's gone off the reservation on some issues. She's really good on other issues. But I think her point is valid. Why in the hell do these people change so much when they get into office?
Yep.
I've been in the local office at the highest level, so I have at least some experience with this. There's a lot of pressure. You've got to walk in knowing who you are, knowing why you're there, and prepared to be a one-termer. If you're not prepared to serve and go home, don't even run. Yeah. I tell that to everybody. That's why Mark in 121 district, he says, look, I may be a one-termer. He already has opponents, whatever. He's like, I'm going to do what's right for the people. I have to live with my decisions. Literally, my kids are going to be affected by my decisions. And he loves the job. He's doing a great job. I support him. God willing, he'll stay there as long as the Lord wants him there. But he's not there. He's not sucking up to anybody. Yeah. I mean, if he's going to work with a Democrat that's going to bless 121 in Texas, he's going to work with him because there's good ideas there.
I heard some time ago somebody
or
said,
vice versa.
To get into a particular political room, you got to go through a particular door, but that particular door has several locks, and different people have keys to those locks.
The problem is that's not the only door to get in. And I think things have changed.
Some of them, yeah.
No, you find another way in that door. Because if I need your keys for those 3 locks, then then I guess you had the key. But bullshit. And I refused because I couldn't get in. People say, there's no way you can win. You've been arrested for selling drugs. You're this. You've been a defense attorney your whole career. That. You got tattoos. Your wife has a nose ring. Fuck off. I mean, that's I don't care. I went a different way. And my way was I'm going to be genuine with people. These are my principles. This is what I want to do for everybody. I truly believe in my ethos and my spirit that I'm supposed to love others more than love myself, and it's better to serve than to be served. That's just the way I'm wired. And you might not agree with my style, or you might not agree with what I'm going to do, but I want to make sure that you understand my genuineness. Yeah. It's coming from a sincere place, a genuine place. So I just don't agree with that. I don't. Look, I think Trump busted that idea, although he had a shit ton of money. I get it. But still, and I think you're seeing that more and more, these non-traditional candidates that are truly connecting with the people. That's your power. Your power are the people. Now, how do you get to the people? Do you need money to get to the people? Yes, I get all that.
And I think that's something he's been very strong on, RFK Jr. I think, for me, he sold me. I've always thought he was a genuine article. I disagree with a whole bunch of stuff, particularly in terms of environmental policy and climate change. But on this issue, I've been with him for, I mean, I have been following his stuff for over a decade. Yeah, you have. And so I just have a real tough time conceding that he's compromised. There have been plenty of opportunities. He's been at the high stakes of the game for many years. If they were going to expose this compromise, they would have done it a long time ago. This is not about compromise. I think that, and maybe he's just a novice to the game here. Maybe he's analogous to Trump in 1.0. At this level, and it's fair enough. And so I want to give him some slack because he's done so much good. I agree. I'm telling you right now,
word, George.
The vaccine, anti-vac, I'm going to say pro-informed consent apologetics would be nowhere in this country if it wasn't for the work of Robert.
I agree.
That is so true.
And his organization.
And his organization. Mary Holland, who is exceptional. I've been reading her stuff for 15 years. Yeah. I mean, when she was an NYU researcher, legal scholar, I was reading her stuff then. Yeah. I love the way she writes. She writes with amazing clarity. And her book, Vaccine Epidemic, is probably the best out there. You want to read a book, Karen? Mm-hmm. That is a great book. It is well footnoted. It is just well articulated. She covers the law. She covers the clinical side. She covers the social side, the family impact side. Yeah. It's very well done. And she's handpicked by him, and he's worked very closely with her. Yeah. And so because I'm wondering, I wonder what Children's Health Defense is going to say in response to this, because they're unequivocal about their concerns for vaccine safety. And I mean, they're taking a real measured approach, just saying that they're conceding that there may be something that they're not aware of. And so what they do is they say, we're grateful for the work and for his contributions to this dialogue, and which is exactly what I think should be said. Credit needs to be given where credit is due. Yes. I don't like what he said. I think it bears immediate clarity and follow-up. But I can't just erase
everything else.
Yeah, that's good, George.
But at the same time, thank God for somebody like Candace that draws attention to it and keeps them in check to a certain degree. Look, like if something's happening somewhere, I'm glad that there's a Candace.
What I don't like about what Candace does, and of course there's plenty of things that she says that are true. Yeah. But then she takes it too far, in my view. When you start throwing words around like compromise for RFK Jr.,
she was specific about it.
You're brushing with a very broad stroke. And I get that that's kind of a general concern everybody has about politicians, legitimately. Yeah, and it's true that it happens. True. But to lump RFK Jr. in there because of a statement like this, I mean, how do you know he didn't just panic? I mean, there's an enormous pressure here.
I kept on thinking that he was under pressure from that family that he was talking to when he said that, because that was like the first death.
Or Karen, just from the sheer weight of the medical establishment on this issue. I mean, if you don't go along here, you're branded a lunatic.
Yeah, but that's not. Those are brands he is accepted.
But at this level,
I know. That's why I was so confused.
I don't know what sort of pressures he has at this level. I don't. And so I guess what I'm saying is I think he deserves a little bit more slack.
Yeah, give him some grace.
And I just don't think Candace. Yeah. I mean, just be a little more gracious, Candace. Then I might actually take what you're saying.
Well, look, so Candace, in between her obsession with Macron being married to a man, and all this other shit she talks about. But I mean,
Look at the hands.
I mean, holy God, look at that bulge.
Adam's apple.
Yeah, it was so. But besides, she said that Bobby was compromised because they had some sexual shit on him. I mean, that's dangerous. I go from reliable sources. Candace, you got to do better than that. Right. Because what Candace doesn't do, as hard as she is on Israel, and look, be hard on Israel. I'm fine with that. Just call balls and strikes if they're true balls and strikes. Her constant response to Islam is, I'm just not as educated on that, so I can't speak on it. Hey, check it out, chick.
Right.
You've been in this space for how long? You're not a stupid woman. Educate yourself. You're not educated on Islam by now, but you're real big on. I call bullshit on her on that stuff. Yeah. It's like this selective ignorance, and then this she's so good. She's so articulate. She's so bold.
So well
she's
said.
so strong. I think there's so much there.
I never thought about that.
I just, I don't know.
I'm
man.
pissed that I didn't think about that.
No, that's gonna be my ringtone.
That's really well said. And look, she positions herself and represents herself as a follower of Jesus, as a Christian. Last time I checked, God's not too happy about slander.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, it was so important to him, it made the 10 Commandments. Exodus 20, verse 16.
Yeah.
Don't bear false witness. And all I'm saying is, if you're going to call somebody compromised, just make sure you're absolutely on target. Look, if the shoe fits, I know you can't do that, Salo. You can't say what if.
If your aunt had balls, she'd be your uncle.
Exodus 2016 doesn't say throw a bunch of shit against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it says have respect for the dignity of another human being. If for any reason, because she claims to be a believer, I mean, that is a big deal. No, but because you're assassinating character, that matters.
And God hates it. Proverbs 6:16. I mean, He doesn't hate a lot of things. So what if I say, George? I mean, Salo. If I'm still, it's because you look like George. I mean, so if I'm still the prosecutor or whatever, and I say, well, what if Salo? Someone says, hey, Salo did A, B, and C. Well, I don't know. There's not a lot of evidence, but what if he did do it? Indict him.
No, I'm saying, what if she does have evidence?
That's a terrible way to run
Doesn't
a
that
press.
happen all the time anyway?
Wait a minute. Didn't that just happen a few years ago?
Well, it happens all the time, but that's terrible.
I know, it is.
Ruins people's lives.
Yeah.
You've got to be careful. Proverbs says the power of life and death is in the tongue.
Yeah.
Do you speak life or death? Now, also Ephesians 4:15 says to speak the truth in love. Okay, well, am I trying to correct people? If I'm trying to expose someone, if you're a public figure, you're setting yourself up for public criticism.
You belong to the people.
It comes with the territory, but doesn't mean it doesn't have to be checked out, and it doesn't have to be thorough, and it has to be honest. We cannot compromise honesty for an agenda of trying to get our point across. It's bullshit.
I've heard it said that whenever the scripture talks about slander, it's always done next to gossip, because really slander is gossip on steroids. And I was trying to recall who said it, but it was something to the effect of how gossip collects secrets and passes them on to others, while slander makes up its own secrets and broadcasts them, wherever they will do the most harm. And I just think that if you're going to be a person who takes what Jesus says seriously and you call him follower, you got to have a particular respect for the dignity of another human being. And so I think that if can't, and she has a significant platform, if she's going to be out there making these statements, please do your homework. I never thought about what you said. I mean, it is an embarrassment of riches on what Islam has been doing, right? Since Muhammad died in 632, we know the political and religious history of Islam. We know what it's done in Europe. We know what it's done in the Middle East. We know what it's been doing in America. Okay, we know that, and very little of it is good as a political machine, and there's a lot of it going on in the United States right now that seems to that really seeks to undermine the country. I mean, she's been silent on this, completely silent on this, and positions Muslims over and over again as victims of some sort of government conspiracy, and so I find it remarkable that she jumps there with RFK. But where there's much to be said based on actual evidence, she's completely silent.
Where's her husband from?
I think he's British.
Yeah, British.
Yeah, well, why doesn't she address Britain? What's going on over there in the UK?
It's absolutely.
I don't watch her, but
stole my thunder.
I know
exactly
you go to sleep with
I have
her voice.
I have a tattoo on her.
You have a tattoo on your lower back with her. But I mean, canned ass. That's what I
mean, I think
I
this
like
is
her overall.
Yeah, but I think it's an important topic, and I think because. If I had a chat with her, I said, look, you're a Christian first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you're in the Old Testament. I don't care if Leviticus 19:16, Proverbs 16:27. In the New Testament, Romans 1:28 to 31. It's interesting that makes a reprehensible list of sins in the New Testament. Romans 1:28 to 31, I think. This is an issue near and dear to God. We talk about murder in terms of physical terms, wiping out somebody's life, but that same damage can apply to murdering somebody's character. God cares about that. All right. So
Next.
anyway,
What?
Karen, please.
Questions, comments, concerns. Karen, what's going on? You all right?
No, I'm fine.
What are people saying, Karen?
Well, everybody's talking about Big Mike. And so it has nothing to do.
Karen, you're cute.
Oh, Michelle Obama.
What?
Her
So how long ago did we lose you?
Podcast or
I'm
what?
not joking.
No.
I'm not joking. I don't like their politics, but I was excited when she was going to do a podcast because I was genuinely curious about her style, the way she was going to speak.
But
It was-
everybody's saying that she sucks so
Bad,
bad.
horrible.
So why are we
she-
talking about it?
Well, because
People talk.
everybody's, we're talking about Candace talking
Candace.
about the guy being married to a guy, and then
Oh,
everybody started
that's
talking
how it-
about Michelle Obama. And, she does have that podcast, and everybody's kind of laughing about it because she can't even break
They
the
were talking
top
about-
20
they were talking
in
about hot dogs.
podcast. Yeah.
We're talking about hot dogs. I'm like, what are you trying to
And
say?
they tried to say that she brought up, the rumors that she's getting a divorce from Obama, but she didn't say anything that made me think that she wasn't. It's just very bizarre. But you know what? This is what I have to say. I like Candace Owens. I love Megan, what's her name?
Kelly. Yeah, she's good.
But why do they find that they have to do something almost like Hollywoodish every now and then? That kills me because
What do
I
you mean?
think, I don't know,
You sound like Solo.
what?
that women are dramatic. That's what you're trying to say.
Yes,
That's
and
what you're
I'm
trying to
one
say.
of them. But when Megan Kelly starts talking about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and a lawsuit, I'm like, why is she talking about that? Or why is Candace Owens talking about,
Yeah.
being married to a man?
You got to go to this guy.
But
Yeah,
tell me.
Say something.
I don't
Say
know.
something.
It
Say something
doesn't-
controversial.
no, I
Stir the
really-
algorithm. Get the algorithm going.
Yes,
No, but
yes,
it
yes.
kills me that it's the women that are doing that. And I'm like, God, Megan Kelly's so smart. Why is she bringing lawyers on to talk about Hollywood stories?
Yeah,
It doesn't.
it's clicks. I'm sorry. That's the game.
It's
Don't hate the player.
awful,
Hate the
though.
game.
Like, who
yeah.
told them to
Have
do
you seen
that?
Candace? Have you seen the story Candace is doing on Weinstein?
Brett, yeah.
See,
Now,
that's
she
what,
claims he was completely bamboozled.
She's talking to him. She talked to him apparently. But anyway,
She defends him.
so y'all are the ones that are interested in it.
Yeah.
No, I just heard that. Well, when Salo sent me the thing on Bobby, it was part of that same show. I watched it on 1.5 because I just don't have time to listen to people. But I mean, it came up there. I guess she defends him. Look, so he's Jewish. I mean, so it's not like she's anti everything Jewish. Because I mean, she's real critical on Israel, which you can be. It's fine. Look, here's the bottom line. The whole Israel thing is funny to me. For me,
Extremes.
as an American and as a Christian, I have two different views. I mean, but those are my worldviews. As an American, they're our greatest ally in a sea of very hostile actors, and some of them can't stand us, hate us, and they're the closest thing to a constitutional republic in the middle of that shithole that we have. So it makes sense to be an ally. That doesn't mean that everything they do, they don't walk on water, they don't walk through the raindrops. Bibi Netanyahu is not a saint. All this other shit. I don't know his history. I don't give a shit. I mean, I do and I don't. But it does, I mean, you can criticize that. As a Christian, we can still criticize Israel, but you have to contend with God's plan for Israel in the last days.
Yeah.
You just have to contend with it. I don't know. I mean, you want to pray for Israel, those enemies of Israel, enemies of mine. I mean, you just have to. Now, that doesn't mean that there can't be two truths at the same time. Bibi, you screwed up. Here's this shit, or whatever the prime minister is at the time. Israel, I can't stand. Look, there's videos going around of Jewish people spitting on Christians, talking shit about Jesus. I don't like that either, and I'll defend that against that all day long. But that doesn't mean that the nation doesn't deserve to exist, and that we have to acknowledge God's plan through Israel in the last days. That's it. I can criticize Israel. I can criticize Netanyahu. I can call shit out. I can criticize Jewish people if I want to. And I can support. So I don't think there's some. It's not this. It's like we get in this all or nothing camps. If I like Candace, I gotta defend everything she says, like Salo. Or if you love Trump, I gotta defend everything he does. No. Or if I this or that. Well, no. I mean, the only one I'm defending everything he said is Jesus, because you can't show me where he's logically inconsistent and where he violates the law of non-contradiction, and what he did and what he truly studied and what he believed and what he taught. I believe it, and he's God, so he's perfect. by definition. He's the standard of love. He's the standard of justice. He's the standard of truth. Period. End of story. That's what I believe, and I think I can defend it logically and consistently. So I just don't like all these camps. And so the whole thing with Candace, she seems to be nothing comes good out of Israel. Other people, like our buddy Jeff, if you're listening, Jeff, there you go. I mean, Israel can do no wrong, even though he says he doesn't take that position, but we all know better. I mean, so Israel can do no wrong. And
he's got a Star of David tattooed on his butt.
Yeah, well, how do you know that?
Stretches.
But it stretches. That bothers me that you know. That bothers me that you know. But all I'm saying is all I'm saying is why can't we be truth seekers, biblically principled people that calls out balls and strikes no matter who's doing, even to Christians, by the way. George and I I'm critical on Christians and churches and pastors and all that other crap. But it's not Nico's standards. I'm looking up for my guidance, you know? So I don't know. It's not that difficult to me, but
yeah. MJ said, "Come on, Karen, start your own podcast because you're a woman."
I don't know.
Did you say? Did you, Nico? Did you ever see? Speaking of saints, Candace, did you see her documentary on George Floyd? Did you see the whole?
No, but I heard her talk about it. I didn't see it.
Watch the documentary. I bet you got a lot of people mad.
Well, she said she got a lot of hate from it. I just didn't see it.
Pobrecita.
So
Is it great?
I asked the question what people were talking about, and that was it?
Yeah.
Michelle Obama?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness gracious. All right, so that's it. Our podcast sucks. What else is there to talk about? I mean, it does, really.
Jesus is king.
What's it called? IMO?
What?
That's what our podcast is
My
called.
opinion or what?
Yeah.
Can't stand all this shit.
And then I don't. All I know about it is I saw a commentator, I mean, back in March saying that if you ever want to know why the podcast sucks, it's because it's an hour of Michelle Obama talking to guests about how awesome she is, and some of these clips can barely get 10,000 views. So she's
always sucked, hasn't she?
She's struggling.
Well.
Okay, all right. It sounds like everybody's got their answers. Everybody's crystal clear,
Yes.
right? On all kinds of stuff.
Any questions, any comments? We'll wrap up a little early today. It's okay. That doesn't hurt my feelings. Well, guys, thank you. If you have any comments, please put them in. We'll respond to them. Thank you for joining us. We want to ask you for comments on topics because the topics are dictated by what's going on in the community, in current events and news for the week. But thank you for joining us. Please continue to share this with people you think may benefit from it. We're just trying to grow and get better and provide a better product for you, and that'll can only happen if we have your support. So thank you so much. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.